Hey, I'm Jeff Early. This week on AudioBuzz, we'll show you some cool ways to create unique music for your productions, and I'll shed a little light on the steps I go through. But what are some of these effects and filters, and why would I use them on my audio? Well, I don't know. Ask Perry. Now, the term near-field or near-field monitors is something that may come up when you begin looking at monitors, and it's just like what it sounds like. It's something that may come up when you begin looking at monitors, and it's just like what it sounds.
Like.
Field or near-field monitoring is something that may come up when you begin looking at monitors, and it's just like what it sounds. What is the problem with reading that line? There are a couple of other things you should know. Wow, that wasn't the line. You should know anyway. I feel a burp coming on. Okay, I think it's. There are a variety of monitors out there to pretty much meet any English reading thing problem. Yes. Now, don't expect to get high volume or low end punch from these, but even at this price point, the accuracy will be better and just it's just better. I can't stop thinking, we want to earn your business. It's for you, Chuck. Now, this type of work can be a bit tedious, but flawless sound certainly comes with the price. And I know that price. It's right over here. Take a look, will you? Come with me. With the tools that are available to you in even the simplest audio editing application, there's no reason your audio shouldn't sound sweet. Okay, that was not convincing at all. There's no reason your audio shouldn't sound sweet. You spend a lot of time talking about... You spend a lot of time in that NLE of yours. You kids and your NLEs these days. We'll see you next week. The last word. You spend a lot of time in your NLE's timeline massaging your edits. No, I think we'll keep that one. I like massaging.
Ready?
With the tools that are available to you in even the simplest audio editing application, no reason shouldn't sound sweet. Once we have this for each file, it will make it easier. Once we have this information for each file, it'll make it easier. But if you want to get ambitious, get ambitious. This week we'll take a look at what it means and how some minor adjustments can make your final production sound sweet. First, we need to make a copy of this sound. The original concept for the show came from the production team for Digital Juice Television, and we all sat down as a committee and decided that we needed to add some sort of audio content to the current show lineup.
When we were coming up with season 2, it was, what hole could we immediately fill? And we have, an audio expert with, over like 20 years of experience in the world of audio.
I kind of started out as a musician. And once I figured out that being a rock star was a little more difficult than a teenager really gives it credit for being, I figured I might as well go into the behind-the-scenes aspect of it. So I, studied studio engineering, and I worked in some recording studios and mastering houses, and then started a live sound company, and eventually got into video and DVD authoring, and then that led me to Digital Juice.
So when we first got him on the camera, it was funny to see, because Jeff's kind of a, pretty outgoing guy and pretty lively all the time.
Oh, I'm supposed to look at the camera? Hey, where's my director?
When we got him on camera, he almost seemed a little bit, like his energy level came down just a little bit. He seemed a little cooler on camera. But it actually worked out better in that sense, because the feel of the show ended up having this kind of hip coolness to it, so he's kind of the cool cat, you know, feeding you audio info.
I was hesitant at first to work with Perry because of his reputation for. Perry's been pretty great. He's helped through the scripting process and deciding what to say and what the topics are going to be. I picked up the from Perry. He taught me how to do that, to throw that in there whenever I need to do that. So he taught me that, and I appreciate that. That's helped out quite a bit. But yeah, he's a good director, a good producer, and he's got the whole look and feel of what he's going for in his head. I think when we start.
The idea with AudioBuzz was to give it. It's the only show on Djtv that really has its own set. You know, we went out of our way to build this cool little. It kind of reminds you of an audio. It's like a studio, but in a miniaturized version. You know, but since it had this kind of cool, sleek colors going on. We also wanted to give it these cool, sleek little moves, just to kind of add and jazz it up a little bit. So we brought in the micro dolly, which I use all the time for other productions, and I just decided, you know, early on when we start the show, it's every time we see Jeff on camera, the camera's got to be moving, even if it's just really, really subtle. You know, we want to keep that movement, keep that flow, so that the whole entire show feels like it's moving and this constant, easy little flow, and it just added a really cool style to the whole show.
But we're only going to hit.
Well, the gel is what helps too, because without this, he'd be all flat. Now we take him from flat to fluffy in just a matter of minutes, and then he looks all handsome. Okay.
Brent Milby is, you know, the best animator that I've ever worked with. The guy, he creates some of the coolest things, and how he does them so fast just blow me away. It's, you know, we need certain things for AudioBuzz. We, you know, it's technical in a sense that we need diagrams of certain things like microphones or inner workings of a speaker or monitors or things like that. So it's when I come to him with, hey, we want to kind of, you know, gut a microphone and show the inner workings of one. You know, I could either take pictures of it and take it apart, or, you know, it'd be a lot cooler if you could animate it. Oh, no problem, I know what you want. And he's off, boom, pretty soon I come over and he's got this little melt thing, and I can't remember what he calls it, but where it kind of peels away and you see the inner workings of something, and it's like, holy mackerel, that's exactly what this show needs. It's exactly what, you know, that's the perfect way to give that piece of information to people. So I say that guy brings so much to everything that we produce.
Perry and I worked really closely together to develop a coordinated color scheme for all the graphics and the diagrams and the set as well, so that it all has a blue-red kind of purple look. The graphics have the same kind of coolness and sleekness that the whole show has as a package.
I think Brent likes audio a lot. I mean, you can tell, you know, he's always playing guitar or doing something around here, you know, so I don't know, there's something about the animations for AudioBuzz that are really kind of cool, you know. I think it may be the color scheme, it may be the style of the show, but the animations are probably one of the biggest reasons that AudioBuzz provides that level of understanding to people, you know, that the reason they watch the show.
Charlie is the editor for AudioBuzz, and thanks, you know, a lot to him that this show gets done every week, because it's a pretty heavy workload, especially when we're doing, you know, some of the things that take the longest, when we have to do screen captures of like certain software and applications and things like that, and trying to explain visually some of the things that happen in the world of audio can be a little bit difficult, but Charlie handles them really, really well.
If we can get a graphic here over this little part, so we can do this into the flat.
The thing I'm most proud of with AudioBuzz, I think just overall the look and the feel, and I'm really happy that we were able to bring, you know, have Jeff actually sit in front of a camera, and he'd never done this before.
Excellent. Do you have the the barbed wire pattern?
Yes, I do.
Have you ironed it?
It's been starched to your liking.
Right arm first.
All right. Always the right arm?
Always the right arm first.
Excellent.
What about the M&Ms?
Green or yellow?
Just blue. Just
Blue
blue.
only.
Get it right. So.
And we took a small corner of a warehouse and just built a little set for Jeff. And we start with nothing, and we end up with this great looking thing. And we couldn't do it if we didn't have people like Brent Milby and Charlie and just the people that work and Jeff too. You know, it's great to see it all come together, and that's what makes producing a lot of fun.
I heard you talking about me. That's all good. It's all good. It's just brotherly love here on the Audiobuzz set.
I wish I'd quit you. Moving and editing video clips on your NLE's timeline may be second nature to you, but when you move into the world of digital audio, there's a whole new lineup of tools and terms that you should know. In this episode of Audiobuzz, we'll familiarize you with the ins and outs of what a typical audio application will have. It's hard to believe, but it really wasn't too long ago when audio production was done with stacks and stacks of analog equipment. If you wanted certain effects, you ran your audio through a box. If you wanted to equalize a signal, it ran through that, and so on and so forth. These methods, although effective, were very time-consuming and, not to mention, took up a lot of space. Well, technology has come to the rescue of any would-be audio tech or seasoned pro, taking all of this and putting it into something as small as this. And fortunately, if you know some of the tools of the analog world, they do the same thing in the digital world. So let's start with the heart of any audio application, the mixer. In a mixer, you can combine various audio signals from different sources. It also gives you control over all of your tracks. In a sense, it's the main control center for your application. Included on your mixer are also some other tools you should be familiar with, like the pan feature. Pan lets you move a single channel sound source within the stereo field from left to right to create the illusion of placement or movement. The mute button turns the output of the channel off so that it passes no signal. So if you wanted to isolate other channels or just hear how your mix would sound without that channel, hit the mute button. Next to that is the solo, which turns all other channel outputs off so that we hear only the soloed channel. If I want to work on a specific channel without hearing the other tracks, I would hit this, perform the necessary tasks on that channel, and I can then turn them all back on by hitting that solo button again. The fader is the most identifiable feature of the mixer because it looks like what you would see on a typical analog mixer. What it does is control the amount of output from the channel into the master output. If I crank it up, the volume increases, to the point where I can even make it peak in the red. This isn't good. I like to keep the individual signal range around -6 decibels, so that when I mix a bunch of tracks together, I don't overdrive the master output and get distortion. Most mixers will also give you access to various inputs. The input takes the signal coming into the mixer circuit, and the input gain adjusts the amount of signal seen by the mixer. One of the most commonly used tools in audio production is the equalizer. The equalizer lets you shape the frequency envelope of the sound, because the frequencies in a sound wave can be broken up into various ranges, and the EQ gives you control of each individual range. One very common type of equalizer is the graphic equalizer, which consists of a bank of sliders for boosting and cutting different bands or frequency ranges of sound. Normally, these bands are tight enough to give at least 3 to 6 decibels of effect for the neighboring bands and cover a range from around 20 Hz to 20 kHz, or the range of human hearing. Let's take a quick look at some other accessories that you'll want to access frequently as you edit your waveforms. The cut or blade tool is a handy item that gets its name from the actual physical way we used to have to cut and splice audio tape, with a razor blade. This tool allows you to split an audio clip into parts so that they can be shifted around in time or processed separately. The envelope feature allows you to automate the gain or pan of a particular audio clip by placing keyframes on a rubber band and setting their levels. Now this little magnifying glass icon is your zoom in or out tool. This allows you to pull out to see the whole picture, which might be useful to look for peaks and other problem areas, and also you can move in very close down to the sample level to fix those problems that we find. Now just as you would zoom into a wave, it's also nice to zoom in or out of your track layout. That's what this little guy here does. And you can see the whole setup at a glance or move in real close, which leads us to the multi-track interface. Now this is a fancy way to talk about multiple tracks. The multi-track editor lets you edit many different tracks at once, allowing you to slide phrases or position musical tracks around in different places, which changes the timing of the events. Granted, there are dozens of other little features and gadgets that you'll come across, and we'll try to cover those throughout the season. But this overview will give you enough to get started and get you on your way to producing some great sounds. Thanks for watching AudioBuzz. We'll see you next time. Hey, I'm Jeff Early. In this episode, we're talking about mic types and pickup patterns. This is AudioBuzz. From your handy stick mic to a studio vocal mic to this little lavalier, microphones come in all shapes and sizes, but they don't all work the same way. You'll generally run into two types, dynamic and condenser. In a dynamic microphone, a small movable induction coil is placed in the magnetic field of a permanent magnet, which is attached to a diaphragm. When sound waves enter the microphone, they move the diaphragm and it begins to vibrate. As a result, the coil moves in the magnetic field and produces a current in the coil. Dynamic microphones are durable, rugged, and fairly inexpensive. For these reasons, you often see them being used on stage by entertainers. In a condenser microphone, the diaphragm can be thought of as one plate of a capacitor. Vibrations, or sound waves entering the microphone, cause changes in the distance between these plates. Since the plates already have a fixed charge, the voltage across these plates changes with the sound waves, and it produces an electrical signal. Condenser microphones range from inexpensive to very expensive. They generally produce a high-quality audio signal and are used in most studio recording situations. They require a power source either from phantom power or from a small battery. Phantom power is available on most professional cameras and audio mixers. Power to a microphone is needed to establish the capacitor plate voltage, and it's also necessary to amplify the signal to a useful output level. Now let's talk about pickup patterns. An omnidirectional microphone's pickup pattern is generally considered to be a perfect three-dimensional sphere around the mic. Picks up sound from all directions. Unidirectional mics are sensitive to sounds from only one direction, and typically suppress sounds from the sides and rear. There are several flavors of unidirectional mics. The cardioid is probably the most common unidirectional mic. It gets its name because its pickup pattern is heart-shaped. Typically, they come in the form of a handheld stick mic. The supercardioid has a longer and narrower pickup pattern to the front and a tiny lobe of rear sensitivity. Cardioid and supercardioid patterns are commonly used as vocal mics, since they're good at isolating the voice and rejecting ambient sounds from the sides and rear. Thanks to their long barrels, shotgun microphones have the narrowest pickup patterns. Shotgun mics are widely used in TV and film productions, and are also popular for sporting events. They don't pick up much sound coming from the left, right, and rear, but are extremely sensitive to sounds from the front of the mic. The construction of a shotgun mic has the element placed inside a long tube with slots up and down the side. The result is a very narrow pickup pattern to the front, while wave cancellation eliminates most of the sounds coming from other directions. Here at AudioBuzz, we're using two mics, an omnidirectional lavalier under my shirt, and a boom-mounted shotgun as a backup. We practice this dual redundancy to make sure we have a safety in case something goes wrong. Now, it's not necessary, but it's easier than having to reshoot if there's a problem. This is a good practice no matter what type of video you produce. Taking a few minutes to place a second mic might just save the day. Good microphones can be expensive.
If cash is tight, it might be a good idea to rent a few different models from your local AV rental house and try them out before you commit your cash. Choosing and using the right mics for your productions is one of the secrets to successful sound. Thanks for watching AudioBuzz. See you next time. Hey, I'm Jeff Early. This week on AudioBuzz, we'll give you the ins and outs of getting your production area ready to record sound. Recording good sound has as much to do with the acoustics of the room you record in as the mic you use. But before you start padding your walls, you need to know a few things about how sound works. Sound is a vibration that moves through matter like a wave. Sound waves are made up of properties similar to other waves, which are frequency, wavelength, period, amplitude, and velocity or speed. You can think of sound waves as the waves that form and move out from a drop of water. It forms and moves from the center to the edge. When the wave hits the edge of the bowl, it bounces off and comes back. If we add another drop, the waves begin to bounce off of each other. This bouncing off the walls illustrates what we call reverb, that echoey sound you hear when you record in a room that doesn't have any absorbing qualities, like an empty gymnasium. There are a few ways that you can treat an area to record better sound: absorption, diffusion, and bass trapping. Since bass trapping is mostly a concern when recording music, it really doesn't apply to videographers trying to record interviews or dialogue for a scene. So we'll focus on absorption and diffusion. For absorption, acoustical foam is designed to lessen or diminish the effects of echo and slap throughout a room, which are common problems in most rooms that weren't meant to be recording studios. Foam cuts easily with a sharp razor or knife and is pretty cost-effective for those working on a budget. Treating a room with foam will help to improve sounds you record with your microphone and also work well for monitoring your audio in a post-production environment. While mattress foam looks like the real thing, most bedding or packing foams are not fire retardant and don't perform well as acoustical treatments due to the structure of the foam cells. It's best to steer clear of putting a bunch of this all over your walls, as you will create a fire trap.
All polyurethane foam is flammable. Do not expose polyurethane foam to welding, smoking materials, naked lights, open flames, space heaters, burning operations, other ignition sources, or heat or other flames. Once ignited, polyurethane foam will burn rapidly, releasing great heat and consuming oxygen at a high rate in an enclosed space. Deficiency of oxygen will present a danger of suffocation to occupants. Hazardous gases and smoke released by the burning foam can be incapacitating or fatal to human beings if inhaled. This warning and all other suitable warnings should be passed on by you to all subsequent users and ultimate customers of products which contain this polyurethane foam.
With diffusion, the idea is to keep sound waves from grouping up in areas throughout the room. Common types of diffusion panels are constructed out of wood and look like grids made up of squares or similar shapes. The sound hits the grid, and as a result, it breaks up the sound wave. A good balance of diffusive and absorptive materials will make a huge difference to the environment you record in. If you're looking for quick, easy alternatives, try hanging cheap furniture blankets on C-stands or using them to cover bare floors. Another inexpensive and simple method for removable installation of acoustic foam is carpet tack. Carpet tack is a 4-foot strip of wood studded with small nails that's used in the installation of wall-to-wall carpeting. Carpet tack is readily available at your local home improvement store. A horizontal length of carpet tack mounted to a wall can be used to hang acoustic foam. This same method also works great for hanging rugs for decoration and/or sound dampening. Taking a little time to dampen or absorb reverb will help you record clean, clear audio, so your productions will sound as good as they look. Thanks for watching AudioBuzz. We'll see you next time. In the world of post-production, the phrase "sweeten the audio" gets thrown around a lot. This week we'll take a look at what it means and how some minor adjustments can make your final productions sound sweet. So what does sweetening mean? Just like it sounds, sweetening the audio refers to making it more pleasing to the ear. When we sweeten the audio, we do so with restraint. Too much of any process may destroy the gentle balance of reality. Reduce some noise, take out any pops and clicks, smooth out transitions, compress a little to increase the perceived volume, and EQ to take out the bumps and add some sizzle. Let's take a closer look at some of the techniques involved, starting with normalization. Audio normalization is a process that finds the highest peak in an audio file and then amplifies the entire file to a specified level. Typically, normalization increases the amplitude of the audio waveform to a maximum level without introducing any distortion. Specifically, normalizing will apply a constant amount of gain to your entire file to bring its highest peak up to a desired level, most likely 100%, 0 dB, or slightly under. Normalization applies the same amount of gain across the entire recording, so the dynamics are preserved. Normalizing a file is pretty much the first thing I do when I start sweetening the audio for any project. Now let's talk about subtractive editing. The idea behind subtractive editing is basically just cutting out the bad stuff, analyzing the waveform during playback for anything that sticks out. The bump of a mic, wind noise, or other extraneous noises that either distract or ruin the message. For some noises, a simple noise reduction filter can be applied. We simply sample the area of noise, open our noise reduction application, and decide how much of that noise to pull out. Now we apply that setting to the entire wave and only the noise will be eliminated. For bumps and scratchy sounds, I just monitor for such things and isolate the sound by zooming way in on it and either mute the area or drop it by 12 decibels or so. Now this type of work can be a bit tedious, but flawless sound certainly comes with a price, and it's necessary if you want professional sounding audio. Another tedious but necessary task is bridging gaps. When cuts are made, sometimes shifts occur in the environment that are audible, like if you were shooting with the air conditioner on in one shot and it's off in the next shot. Once you get set up, record about a minute of just room noise that you can mix underneath and bridge any jumps between cuts to make it seamless. One thing I do before exporting a final mix is run a compressor over the entire project. Compression makes the level of your audio more consistent throughout and decreases the dynamic range of the file, or the difference between the loud parts and the soft parts. It basically evens out your waveform so softer sounds don't get lost in the mix. So I generally run my compressor around 1.5 to 1 and set the threshold at around -6 decibels. This gives me a very gentle overall compression and a smooth sound. With the tools that are available to you even in the simplest audio editing application, there's no reason your audio shouldn't sound sweet. You spend a lot of time in your NLE's timeline massaging your edits and making your productions look right, so why not do that for your audio too? Thanks for watching AudioBuzz. We'll see you next time. Hey, I'm Jeff Early. This week on AudioBuzz, we'll show you how to maximize the Digital Juice sound effects library by tweaking some simple sound effects to make cool custom sounds. We'll also dive into some Foley work and show you how simple it can be to create some of your own effects. Although the Digital Juice sound effects library has pretty much every sound you might need, by doing some minor tweaking in your audio app, you can further customize sounds to fit any of your needs. Some of the simplest sounds can be made into fun and complex noises. We can take a sound as simple as this lip smack, number 05508 out of the Human Elements category in the sound effects library, and turn it into something completely different with some creative tweaking. The lip pop has a sucking sound right before the pop. We want the first part of this right here. So we'll simply cut off the pop, which leaves us with this. Now we can take this file, copy it, and paste it 8 or 9 times in our editor so we can apply a pitch bend to all of these. And make sure they're all highlighted. Good. Go to our pitch bend tool within our audio application, which in this case is SoundForge. By clicking and dragging our bar and making it diagonal from top left to bottom right, it shifts the sound from 2 octaves above to 2 octaves below the original pitch. I'll apply this effect 4 times. effectively extending the range from 8 octaves above to 8 octaves below the original pitch. By applying this method to create an extreme effect, we've turned a simple human sound into a laser. Pretty cool. The pitch bend or pitch shifter is pretty common in all audio applications. There are also tons of plugins and third-party tools out there that do the same thing. Let's do another one. This time we'll make a cool whooshy sound that you might hear in a kung fu or action type sequence. We'll start with Aluminum Impact, sound effect number 01698 from the General Effects category. First we need to make a copy of this sound, then reverse that copy. We'll take that copy and paste it to the front of the original file, and we get this. This sounds good, but we can make it even better. We'll start by adding a fade up on the start of this sound and a fade out on the end. This just sort of smooths things out. Now if we apply our pitch bending friend, we'll put this peak in the middle and we get a noise like this. Nice. By experimenting with sounds you already have in a library like the Djtv Sound Effects library, there's no limit to what you can create. Now let's take it a step further and show you some simple ideas for creating your own Foley work. Jack Foley was the developer of many sound effect techniques used in filmmaking. He is attributed with inventing the art of Foley, which is the process of adding sound effects such as footsteps and environmental sounds to film and video. Many early pictures had dialogue and music, but no effects to convey movement. Editors started cutting together footstep sounds for actors, but would use the same tracks over and over. Jack Foley had the idea to project the moving image on a screen in the soundstage and record sounds in sync with the actor's movements, using different surfaces and a large array of props. Almost every sound we hear at the movies that isn't dialogue or music is a sound effect. From footsteps to gunshots, sound is either created by a Foley artist or deliberately placed there by a sound editor. Technology has simplified the process for the modern-day video editor. We can take pre-recorded footsteps and other sounds out of the Djtv Sound Effects library to design a scene. But if you want to get ambitious and do your own, well, that's okay too. Here are some simple and easy ones to try. For this sequence, we'll add the sound of wind, some thunder, and rain with sound effects we record ourselves. To record each of these sounds, we used a shotgun microphone placed as close to the action as possible. For wind, we've got a mason jar that we simply blow into. Don't worry too much about the pitch at this point. We can fix that. Good. Now for rain, we bought a cheap bag of rice and a simple piece of sheet metal from our local home megamart. We place the metal on a flat surface and point the mic at the metal. Now with a handful of rice, slowly let the rice pour from your hand onto the metal sheet. And before you know it, it's raining. To make some thunder, we'll grab that same piece of sheet metal, hold it near our microphone, and give it a good shake. Do this several times until you're happy with it. And there you go. Whether you create your own or use a sound effects library, just paying a little attention to these details when you edit will kick your productions up a notch. Thanks for watching AudioBuzz. We'll see you next week. Hey, I'm Jeff Early. In this episode, we'll talk about making the most of your soundtracks with the coolest customizable music library around, StackTracks. The StackTracks music library is customizable production music that lets you turn individual instruments on and off to make your own custom mixes. What sets StackTracks apart from other music collections is its multi-track remixability. You can use the mix of a song just as it is on the disc, or split each instrument onto a separate audio track of your timeline, so you can remix the song just like you were in the studio. Pretty cool. Here's how it works. The juicer is your main interface for auditioning and outputting your songs. With your previews loaded into the juicer, you can listen to the full mix of a song or turn tracks on and off to preview the elements that make up the song. I'll drag it to the batch window, select the split into tracks mode, and render it out. In my editing application, I can now drop each instrument onto a separate audio track. Now I can use my gain control to adjust the level of each instrument or delete a track, remixing the song however I like. Now that we have the song on our timeline, we can do all kinds of different things with it. First, let's listen to the full mix of our music track. Sounds great, but I could use a version without so much lead for segments when we'll have on-camera talent talking. I'll find the part where we want the VO from our on-screen talent to come in, and I'll ramp down everything but the drums and bass. Check it out.
Today on Extreme Sports, don't miss the ultimate windsurfing challenge. See ya!
Once I get the mix I like, I can render it out and save this version to use later. Sometimes all you need is just one small piece of a stack track song to create a mood. Here we have the song Horror from Spooky Stacks, Volume 16. Now what's cool or eerie about this tune is that spooky piano and weird synth track sound. Let's isolate those tracks and listen. Now watch how we use this synth track to set the mood for this suspenseful sequence from Production Notes.
Hello? Hey, is anyone in here?
Things ain't been working too well here. What the heck? Let's see. Gosh dang, why is that not working? Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense at all.
Hey, there we go. Wonderful.
If you want another cool example of how to use stack tracks in your productions, check out the theme song for this show. Here I used the stack track song as the foundation, added sound effects of breaking glass, ratchets, and water splashes to create a completely unique custom piece. Well, thanks for watching AudioBuzz. We'll see you next time. Hey, I'm Jeff Hurley. This week on AudioBuzz, we're talking about monitoring your audio in post-production and why it's time to get rid of those cheap little computer speakers and step into something that'll give you truer sound when it comes to your mix. In the world of audio, a good set of monitors is crucial to getting a good mix. Now, I'm not talking about an LCD or CRT computer monitor, but what you may refer to as a speaker should actually be a monitor. Confused yet? First, let's look at the difference between a good set of typical stereo speakers and a set of speakers designed as studio monitors. Your typical high-end stereo speaker may cost more than an entry-level studio monitor, but the real difference is in the listening experience and how your mix translates to other systems. A speaker designed to sound good as your main home stereo speaker is just that, designed to sound good. The frequency response may be tailored to have tight, punchy bottom-end bass and smooth, silky highs so that your music sounds great when you crank up the volume. A studio monitor, on the other hand, is designed to be more of a reference with a flat frequency response so that what you hear is what you get. With a good flat studio monitor, you can be reasonably assured that what you hear when you record or mix is actually what you're getting, and not just a signal that has the added shine and polish of a hi-fi speaker. If the speaker isn't adding anything to the sound, then you're free to add the punch and sparkle directly to the signal. Now, the term near-field or near-field monitoring is something that may come up when you begin looking at monitors, and it's just what it sounds like. Your monitors are in a field that is near. Usually the monitors are placed within 3 to 5 feet of your ears and laid out with your head at one point of an equilateral triangle. The idea is that having the speakers in this near field will allow you to monitor your audio at an overall lower volume and minimize the effects of your room acoustics on what you hear. There are a couple of other things you should consider as well before purchasing a set of monitors. Let's start with the difference between active and passive. Passive monitors typically consist of speakers in an enclosure. The signal going into each speaker will run through a crossover circuit that splits the signal into low and high frequency ranges in a two-way configuration, or low, mid, and high in a three-way configuration. The level coming from the main output of your audio interface will probably be either minus 10 dB if you're running an unbalanced line, or plus 4 dB if you're using the balanced output. Since this isn't enough signal to cause much movement of a speaker, and therefore doesn't generate much volume, a separate amplifier is required. Active monitors have specification-matched amplifiers built right into the enclosure. They generally will have just the right amount of power to drive the speakers to their rated maximum output without damage. They also minimize setup time and usually have volume controls and a variety of inputs available right on the back of the monitor. Active monitors can make your life a little easier by taking care of some of the technical details. Another thing to look for is whether or not the monitors are shielded. Speakers use magnets and alternating current to produce sound. Some of the stray magnetism surrounding speakers can cause interference with other electronic equipment, such as CRT displays. You'll be able to see this interference as a bending of the usual colors if non-shielded speakers sit too close to your display. While there are methods that can be used to shield non-shielded speakers and reduce this interference, there are a wide variety of modern studio monitors that are already shielded and can be used near electronic equipment without worry. Make sure to look for this in your monitor's specs. There are a variety of monitors out there to meet pretty much any budget, from entry-level to pro. Some entry-level active monitors may include the M-Audio StudioFile DX4, the Edirol MA15D, or the Samson Resolve 40A. These entry-level monitors will range in price from $100 to $250 and will typically have smaller low-frequency drivers and a minimal amount of power output, but are still good for dialogue and general mixing duties. Now, don't expect to get high volume or low-end punch from these, but even at this price point, the accuracy will be better than your typical computer or multimedia speakers. Some mid-level monitors include the Alesis M1 Active 620s and the Tapco S8s. Expect to pay a little more for this level of product, but you'll get a solid low-end response and some added features like frequency contour switches to allow different response curves for different monitoring environments. This level of monitors will run you anywhere from around $400 to $650, but the extra money would be well spent if you need the added features. Now let's have a look at what the big guys use in the high-end area of professional monitors. If you're able to spend over $1,000 per pair for your monitors, you begin approaching the realm of equipment you might find in an audio production studio, and you start seeing models like the Mackie HR824s and the JBL LSR 4328Ps. Keep going up in price and you encounter names like Tannoy, Dynaudio, Atom, and Genelec. These monitors can easily push you into the range of several thousands of dollars per pair, and they can feature exotic materials and extended frequency response. No matter what level of work you do, there should be a set of monitors at your edit bay. If your budget can only afford an entry-level model, your productions will still benefit more than if you just kept mixing with the speakers that came with your computer. Thanks for watching AudioBuzz. We'll see you next time. From freeware and entry-level audio applications to high-dollar suites, there's no shortage of software available for people looking to edit audio. So this week on AudioBuzz, we'll take a look at what separates various audio applications and what benefits certain apps have over others. There are tons of different audio editing applications out there that will help you get your job done. But if you're shopping around, it may seem overwhelming trying to settle on just one. In the area of freeware and entry-level applications, there are some decent ones out there for little or no money. Audacity is a free open-source audio editor that performs basic editing functions and is available for Windows, Mac OS X, and Linux. If you have a newer Mac, you may already have GarageBand 3 included with the iLife 06 suite, which offers not only multi-track audio editing, but music creation tools such as software instruments and loops as well. GarageBand 3 even adds a video track so that you may watch your video segment as you add, edit, and adjust your audio. On the PC side, SoundForge Audio Studio is an inexpensive audio editor that contains many of the features of the industry standard SoundForge 8. Any of these tools are fine for simple tasks such as cutting out bad takes from voiceover tracks, or making minor EQ changes. In the realm of mid-level applications, you start to see more features like additional tracks and more effects, which is great for experienced users looking for a little more. More advanced applications, such as Sony's SoundForge 8, support higher bit depths and sampling rates up to 24,192, batch converter functionality, and the ability to script actions. Sony's Acid Pro 6 represents an industry-standard multi-track loop-based music production tool that allows an unlimited number of tracks, real-time pitch shifting and tempo matching, MIDI sequencing and processing, as well as a powerful media manager. Adobe Audition 2.0 has some fantastic noise reduction and audio restoration tools, as well as a whole host of visual displays and audio analysis tools to help you pinpoint and fix audio problems. This brings us to the lineup of professional standalone audio applications. Some of these may be way more than you need for most of your everyday audio for video tasks. These applications are so deep and feature-rich that we could spend entire seasons on each one, but we're only going to hit some of the highlights. Sonar 6 from Cakewalk provides a 64-bit signal path, making it possible to achieve extended dynamic range and audio definition on a 64-bit capable Windows machine. It also offers a multitude of music production tools, such as the ability to quantize or snap multiple audio tracks to the same groove. Motu's Digital Performer includes a variety of enhancements specifically useful for scoring videos, such as allowing you to import a cue sheet listing critical hit points and having the fine tempo feature suggest a tempo for your score that will hit those points. Nuendo from Steinberg offers an audio pull-up, pull-down function which can match audio playback speed changes for the Telecine, NTSC, or PAL conversion processes, as well as a variety of mixing enhancements for use in a studio with a separate control room. Probably the most recognized professional audio application out there is Pro Tools from Digidesign. The Pro Tools LE version of the application ships with a variety of very affordable Digidesign hardware. The Pro Tools HD systems are some of the most powerful audio systems available and use dedicated DSP cards installed inside your computer in addition to the host computer's power itself. An HD system is very powerful and can cost many thousands of dollars. When using software like the ones we've mentioned in a post-production workflow that coincides with your NLE, there are some things to look out for. These types of applications make sweetening your audio a little easier than what a standard NLE would offer. But you need to make sure that when you kick out the picture and audio to be sweetened in an external application, that you're completely done with editing the picture and that it's locked down, so that you don't risk losing sync when you replace the newly mixed audio from your audio application. A simpler solution might be to start with an editing suite that bundles an audio app that works seamlessly with your NLE. Suites like Final Cut Studio that bundles Soundtrack Pro among other apps allows you to open a project from Final Cut right in Soundtrack Pro, so you don't risk losing sync between your picture and audio. It also makes video playback a little easier within the audio editor. Sony Vegas and Adobe Production Suite also bundle audio apps together with their NLEs to make your post-production workflows a little easier. No matter what application you settle on, it's important to pay attention to your audio. It's not always the tools that make the production, so even a basic audio program will help steer you in the right direction. Thanks for watching AudioBuzz. See you next time. In many projects, the voiceover or narration can make or break the production. Like many of us, you probably don't have a Hollywood-sized budget to bring in top voice talent to help spice up your productions. More than likely, you'll end up doing these yourself. So this week on AudioBuzz, we'll discuss some tips and tricks, and I'll shed a little light on the steps I go through before doing voiceover work. In the specialized world of the voiceover artist, some can make thousands of dollars for a mere 30-second read. Now, I'm not here to turn you into the next famous voice behind a slew of movie trailers, but with the tips I'm about to share, you should be able to pull off some simple VOs for your productions. Let's start with the script. I cannot express how important it is to have the actual final script as it will appear in the final production. Make sure the client has approved the script and that there's nothing further they want to add. Work closely with them to help phrase things in a way that enhances the script. Sure, you can edit out words and add in things later, but you'll spend less time getting it right the first time around rather than editing it after the fact. And it'll sound more natural. If you have to edit, make a work copy of your file and edit that. Save your original as a backup. This next tip may seem a bit obvious, but you won't believe how many times I've had someone come in to deliver lines for a project, and it's the first time they've even looked at the script. It's a good idea to actually rehearse your script and make sure you understand how to read it. You don't really have to understand all the concepts presented in a technical script, but you should be certain that your delivery and inflections suggest that you do, so that statements don't sound like questions. You might want to take the time to underline or capitalize words in your script that require more emphasis as a general reminder for your performance. If you keep having trouble with certain words, spell them out phonetically. It's easy to say ya instead of you or fur instead of for, so writing out the actual pronunciation might be a good guide. It might also help with pacing to spell out large numbers, so that 22,153 is actually read as 22,153. Writing out large numbers and hard to pronounce words will help keep you from stumbling over your words and frustrating you as you do your read. Now let's talk about where you record. There are a number of prefabricated isolation booths on the market. And while they'll certainly help improve the quality of your recordings, most aren't actually totally soundproof. The best you can usually hope for is an attenuation of outside noise by 30 to 40 decibels. If you don't have a booth to record in, it's a good idea to treat the room you'll record in with some sound dampening material, like we discussed in our episode on sound dampening, and try to avoid as many external noises as possible. If your final VO will appear in a production with a music bed, most low-level noise will probably be masked by the music. However, if you're doing something like straightforward narration where your voice will be the featured element, like an audiobook, you might want to consider additional measures like recording in the middle of the night. You might be surprised at just how much less noise there is at 3 a.m. than 3 p.m. It's important to start out with the best microphone for your voice and recording environment. You might want to audition a few different mics at your local music store or rental house if possible. Perhaps even rent an hour or two of studio time at a local studio and explain to them that you want to record into a variety of vocal microphones and have them set up the session before you arrive. Even though I have the ability to use a very expensive studio condenser mic that's been used to record lead vocals on countless popular albums, I still like to stick with my Electro Voice RE20 Dynamic because I like the way my voice sounds through it. I also find it to be a little more rugged, more forgiving with plosives, and better at rejecting off-axis noise. There are a variety of microphones out there to choose from. I can only tell you which ones work best for me. You'll need to experiment and do some homework to find out which ones suit your needs. And once you've settled on your mic, even if it's the simplest of handheld stick mics, there are some accessories you should look for. Microphone placement is key in order to record a good voiceover track. Make sure you have a mount for your microphone that puts it exactly where you need it and it keeps it there. A desk-mounted swing arm stand is handy if you can lock it into position so that it doesn't creep around on you. A standard mic stand with a boom also works well. It fits into a variety of settings and it's portable. If it's available for your mic, a shock mount is a good investment to help isolate it from noise transmitted through the mic stand, such as the low-frequency rumble of the idling truck across the street that you might not hear, or for when you bump the stand while recording. A stand-mounted pop filter helps to control those popping P sounds to help minimize the editing required to tame those plosives in post. Now, just as important as having good microphone placement is having a good place for your script. First, make sure the font on your voiceover script is big enough to read comfortably from a distance, and place your script in a place where you can easily see it when you're up in front of the mic. It's best to have a copy holder, some type of stand, or even tape your script to the wall rather than holding it. Holding a script can add extraneous noises such as paper rattling and shuffling, not to mention that as you move the script around, your voice bounces off the paper and back into the mic, and it can cause slight variations in the sound of your voice due to phase cancellation. Just before you begin recording, take a minute to collect a few items to help you through your session. Have a few bottles of water or a pot of warm tea available in your recording room before you start, so that if your mouth gets dry, and it will, you don't have to stop what you're doing and go to the fridge. Doing that could cause you to lose your concentration and destroy your pacing. Don't drink anything thick or mucus-inducing like a milkshake directly before or during recording. Some lip balm will help keep you from licking your lips and making a lot of smacking noises. Use something with a coconut oil base that's not too sticky for best results. Finally, it's good to warm up and massage those vocal pipes before you begin. Warm up your voice with some scales or sing your favorite song while getting your area set up. Don't worry if you don't hit the notes just right. This mainly helps give your vocal cords a little exercise before the main event. And it's a lot of fun. But don't be too harsh on yourself if you don't like the way your voice sounds. Most of us can't stand to hear our own voices on playback. Get some opinions from neutral sources and, more importantly, your client. They'll probably be pleasantly surprised by your results and happy not to have to shell out any extra cash for voiceover talent. Thanks for watching AudioBuzz. Good luck. Whether you use layered production music like Stack Tracks or a royalty-free CD library like Backtracks, you may find that even though you're offered a variety of songs in various lengths, you still need to tweak a song to make it fit your project's needs. So this week on AudioBuzz, we'll show you some cool ways to create unique music for your productions by creating your own loops. Before we get into the actual creation of a loop, it might be helpful to define and explain what it is that makes up an audio loop. A loop is really any piece of audio that can play from beginning to end and back to the beginning without any skips or jumps. This small piece of recorded audio can be laid out on a timeline back to back, and the sections will play from one section to the next, or loop, seamlessly. The content of the loop can be as simple as a rhythmic drum part that repeats several bars, or more complex, like a complete section of a full mix. These loops are sometimes used in video games or on the web, where data storage space is at a premium. Audio loops are also popular for use as background music on DVD menus that loop. Back in the analog days, the audio signal was recorded to magnetic tape, and this tape was then cut at the beginning of the sound and then again at the end, or the natural loop point. The end of the tape was then spliced to the beginning, creating an actual physical loop. This tape loop was then loaded and played back on a reel-to-reel machine as a continuous repeating section. Now this process isn't quite so complicated in the digital realm of audio editing. Most standalone audio programs have some form of looping built in these days. One of the most notable is Acid Pro from Sony, but others such as Sonar, Audition, and Soundtrack Pro have feature sets that make working with loops easy. Let's take some of our musical elements from Sound Effects 2 and see how we can turn them into loops, and then combine them to make new elements for our projects. Let's start with a drum groove element, 20-728. Pull it into our editor and define the loop points. Looks like we can get a good start point at 4.375. And mark the wave right where the waveform crosses 0. Then we'll mark the out point at 6.565. Highlight the selection, check the loop playback box, or hit Q as a shortcut, and check the playback. Sounds good. Now let's trim off the ends of this file. Open the Special Edit Sample dialog and change the sample type to sustaining. This adds metadata to the file which describes the attributes of the file. Metadata is information that's useful for determining the tempo of the file and how many beats are included. Once we have this for each file, it'll make it easier to match various files. Save the file and make sure you check Save Metadata with File to keep this information with the audio file. Now we'll take an electric bass element, 20-826, and define its loop, as well as trimming off the note at the beginning and adding silence to the end to make this thing 3 seconds. Define the loop, and now we have our new bass element. Now we'll put these together in our audio application, Acid Pro. Since we saved the metadata with the file, each part will show up in the program as a loop. Since Acid sees the file as a loop, we can just grab the end of the file and pull it down our timeline, and the program will do the work of making it loop. If we combine loops, we can make new compositions. We'll use the drum loop as is and pull the bass loop out to basically include a riff and a half. Let's hit these on the 1 and 3, then pitch shift the next loop up a third by hitting the plus key 3 times, and then place the last loop on the 7. Now we have a new drum and bass riff. We can actually go in and time stretch this thing a little each way. Go to Edit, Fit to Time, and enter 17 seconds. There you go, a custom 17-second drum and bass riff. We can also use the concept of looping to make simple edits to any music in our production arsenal. Let's open up the 60-second version of Retro Surf Monster of Love from Backtracks 1 and see what parts we have available. There's a nice loopable section from around a half second into the music to around 3.5 seconds. When we zoom into these to find our edit points, we mark them at 0.454 and 3.387 to be exact. This becomes our loop. The end of the song makes a nice part to keep. We'll define that at 56.088 out to the end. We'll save our end section separately from our loop and name it appropriately. Trim up the loop and define the Acid properties and save it with the metadata. Now we'll pull these into Acid and see what we can make. We can drag the main loop out as long as we want and then snap that end in place to end it. We can come up with a whole variety of different lengths now very easily. So start experimenting and remember to have some fun along the way. Make sure you save everything you do, and before you know it, you'll have your own collection of unique loops and songs that you can use to amaze your clients. Thanks for watching AudioBuzz. See you next time. There are a broad range of audio effects available today in even the simplest of audio apps. From flangers to phase shifters and delay effects to distortion, our options are becoming just about unlimited. But what are some of these effects and filters, and why would I use one on my audio? Questions we'll explore this week on AudioBuzz. Audio effects are very similar to video effects in many ways. If you know how to use them, then they're usually applied tastefully and kept to a minimum. Too many effects and your message gets lost in a garbled array of digital noise. Your sound becomes more about the effect than the actual content. Part of the process of using effects is knowing what they are and what they'll do. Let's start with a few common ones that you're sure to come across as you dig deeper into your app. Some of the most recognizable audio effects are actually based on a manipulation of time. These would include flange, chorus, delay, and the ever-popular reverb. A flange effect is a type of phasing in which two identical sounds are mixed together while the second one is delayed by a varying small amount of time between 1 and 10 milliseconds.
I'm your father. I'm your father.
You can get a more intense effect by feeding some of this output back to the input, which creates more resonance. Generally, this effect will produce a frequency sweeping and would typically be useful for making something sound unnatural or otherworldly. If you had two vocalists singing the exact same lines in unison,
oh, sleep in heavenly peace,
there would undoubtedly be variations between the two. This is exactly what a chorus effect simulates with any audio signal. It mixes the original signal with a delayed copy while varying the pitch of the copy slightly.
Oh, sleep in heavenly peace.
Chorus uses a longer delay than flange, around 20 to 30 milliseconds, and there's no feedback loop. Chorus can be used to thicken up a sound such as a vocal or an acoustic guitar. Delay, or echo, simply plays back a sound a specified number of times after a specific amount of time has passed.
Hello? Hello?
You might hear an echo naturally if you yell into a canyon and hear your voice bouncing back to you a second later. You can create a delay in your NLE by simply making a copy of a sound, placing it on another track, sliding it out in time where you want the echo, and lowering the volume a few decibels. This way you can place your echoes exactly at specific cut points in your edit without having to experiment with time settings or mathematical calculations that might be required by a plugin.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Delay can be used to emphasize a point or give the illusion of being in a large deserted area, like a warehouse or a canyon. One effect that has a lot of power if used correctly is reverb. A subtle amount of the correct reverb can really enhance a scene. Too much, and all is lost. The easiest way to conceptualize different flavors of reverb is to listen for it in various places. Singing in the shower produces a different reverb than singing in a gymnasium.
Oh, sleep in heavenly peace.
Reverb is made up of many early reflections that arrive at our ears in a short period of time, making it difficult to distinguish individual echoes. In a large enclosed area, late reflections will continue after the sound source stops and will decay at various rates over time. Reverb presets are generally set up to simulate various environments and are usually given names like living room, packed cinema, or concert hall. If you're new to designing audio spaces, presets are a good place to start. One way to add realism to a scene is to take clues from how the audio would sound in the real world and use effects to help achieve this. For example, when you have your talent in a shot where they're on the phone with someone and have a radio playing off in the distance, you want the sound coming from each source to sound as they would in reality. For the phone voice, a simple EQ might just do the trick.
All of our representatives are currently assisting other callers.
Roll off everything below 1200 Hz and everything above 2400 Hz at an 18 decibel per octave slope. This sound now approaches the limited bandwidth sound of a typical telephone receiver.
All of our representatives are currently assisting other callers. One of our representatives will assist you shortly.
Now what about the radio playing in the room? It's a similar operation. How would it sound? Limit the bandwidth by rolling off some of the highs and lows. Pan the sound more toward where you see the radio or where you want to simulate where the radio might be in the room, and then add a little reverb that matches the description of the room. Simple, but effective.
All of our representatives are currently assisting other callers. One of our representatives will assist you shortly.
Whether you're editing an alien action sequence or an intimate drama, adding the right effects to your audio can help complete the picture. Just remember to use restraint. A good effect doesn't have to take center stage to be effective. Thanks for watching AudioBuzz. See you next time. Video producers face a variety of challenges from project to project, but no task could be more challenging than trying to make bad audio sound good. Whether it's an electrical hum from an air conditioning unit or a hiss from a poor quality recording, the tasks involved in fixing such problems might be easier than you think. This week on AudioBuzz, we'll look at some common audio problems and show you some quick fix ideas. As an audio engineer, there's no bigger challenge than trying to repair a client's bad audio. Trying to salvage poorly recorded audio doesn't have to result in complete disappointment. Hopefully with the tips I'm about to show you, some of your nightmares can have happy endings. Let's start with matching EQ. One of the situations you'll probably encounter is trying to match the sound of on-camera talent with voiceovers of the talent recorded at a later time.
With moving 5 or 10 semis to 30 cities and constantly setting it up and tearing it down. I remember back in '94, a winter storm came in and turned out being 3 hours late for the show.
Even if you've taken the care to use the same mic and coached your talent to try to mimic the same energy level as in the 2-camera parts, you may not always be able to record in the same location, and the parts may need to be matched. One way to do this is pull the 2-camera audio up in your editor beside the new VO. Listen to the 2-camera audio.
No one can really understand what a live concert production is until you take it on the road.
And make adjustments to the EQ of the VO track to match the sound.
I remember back in '94, a winter storm came in and turned out being 3 hours late for the show.
Go back and forth between the two and continue to make adjustments until they sound the same. Now, pay attention to the sound of the 2-camera audio with regards to the room sound or reverb.
No one can really understand what a live concert production is until you take it on the road.
Pick an appropriate reverb sound to approximate the sound you hear. Again, with the sounds side by side and going back and forth between the two. What about the ambience of the room you originally recorded in? You surely recorded just pure room tone ambience for 20 seconds or so, right? This sound of the empty room can be used to lay under the VO to make it sound even more like the VO that was done on location. We usually refer to this as an ambient track or ambient sound.
Road, the logistics and the planning involved with moving 5 or 10 semis to 30 cities and constantly setting it up and tearing it down. I remember back in '94, a winter storm came in and turned out being 3 hours late for the show.
Another common problem that producers face are those pesky pops from plosives. Plosives are those sounds from hard consonants such as P and B that cause the microphone to sound like it was bumped. The first thing we need to do is identify where the problem is.
Palladium.
Listen through the track and drop a marker each time you hear a pop.
Palladium.
You might even be able to see some pops as unusually high spikes in the track. Once you've marked the pops, you'll need to zoom in close to analyze the problem. Highlight the area of the pop and reduce its volume to be in line with the average volume of the rest of the track. Now play the track.
We were setting up at this place called the Palladium.
If you've still got a pop, highlight the pop area again and apply a fade in. Play the track again.
We were setting up at this place called the Palladium.
If necessary, you can repeat these steps until that hard consonant is gone. It can take quite some time to go through a whole project, but you can do this from the comfort of your edit suite without having to reshoot due to badly recorded audio. Once you've done an entire project this way, you'll no doubt find the wisdom to invest in some pop filters and windscreens, and will pay closer attention to microphone placement on your talent. I get a lot of requests from clients needing to restore audio that was recorded on analog tape years ago. Without a doubt, as a video producer, I'm sure you come across this as well, especially if you do memorial-type videos or retrospective pieces. So let's take a look at removing unwanted noise. For most noise reduction functions, you'll need to have a portion of the noise you want to reduce in isolation from the foreground sound you're trying to save. If you're working in Soundtrack Pro, it's easy to highlight this isolated noise area, go to Process, Set Noise Print, then highlight the entire area where you want to reduce the noise and go to Process, Reduce Noise. The setting for noise threshold, reduction, and tone will vary according to how much noise you have, so hit the Preview Play button and experiment with the settings until you get rid of most of the noise and retain most of the foreground sound.
No one can really understand what a live concert production is until you take it on the road.
Sometimes it might require doing a slight reduction and then taking another noise print and repeating the process. On the PC side, Adobe Audition also offers a similar noise reduction tool. You highlight the unwanted noise, and Audition takes this sample and removes the frequency from your audio file. Whatever app you use, be sure to watch out for over-processing, or your foreground sound will start to sound filtered. If you've got isolated areas of microphone bumps or odd noises between sections of dialogue, you can sometimes reduce these with a multiband compressor by isolating the frequency range of the bump and compressing only the sound within those frequencies. You could also experiment with replacing the bump area with another section of good background. With some creative crossfading, your noise will become a thing of the past. While there are audio problems that can't be fixed, the majority can be made to sound much better. And sometimes, with a little extra effort, you can save what you thought was lost. Thanks for watching AudioBuzz. See you next time.
Oh, hi. You caught me tickling the old ivories there. You know, in between episodes of AudioBuzz, I like just to let the inner musician in me come out and play a few tunes for everybody around. It's just something I like to do. Well, not really. Actually, what I'm here to do today is, tear down the old AudioBuzz set. See, we're done with Season 1, and unfortunately, we got to get onto a new set for something else. So why don't we get to this and tear this baby apart? All right, let's start with this area back here. This was our, little musician corner. We felt it appropriate to have a little musical instrument in the shot, so this is the keyboard that Jeff uses when he's making stack tracks and things like that. So the keyboard was already here. We already own this, so it was a no-brainer, and not a cheap keyboard, that's for sure. And it's not light. We had all these cabinets already. I believe Billy made these for us for an old set years ago. So I just reused it and made it the top of the keyboard stand. I thought it had some cool frosted writing in that thing. So that's what we're using this for. Right, Chuck?
What are you using that for, Jenkins?
Well, it was for our keyboard in the AudioBuzz set, and off it goes.
Cool keyboard tray I might have. Isn't that custom made just for this?
And if you'll direct your attention to this thing over here, this was our little rice paper fold them up doohickey thing. I don't know what they call these bad boys, but I got it pretty cheap at a local craft store, I think it was. I think it was only about half off, so it ended up costing me $35, I think. So, but it worked good to kind of break up this little area back here. Thank you, sir. And of course, lighting that whole thing up. Hey! Of course, lighting this whole thing up was a little 250 watt Lowell Pro for the blue gel. And that was pretty much it for the musician's corner over here. We used these little acoustic panels throughout that Billy made, and they worked great to kind of give you the atmosphere of a recording studio. You can see them over in the corner over here, and they just kind of became an element for the set. We also used these as backgrounds for all the B-roll that we would shoot. Here we got a couple little lights. We were looking for something kind of funky and groovy, and these were kind of the rice paper thing that kind of matched the fold-em-up doohickey. And got these at a local store you might recognize. Oh, let's see, where did I put that box? See? Just simple floor lamps that anybody can buy. These were $20 a piece, I think, so not bad. Okay, let's get this out of the way. All right, let's talk about these crushed velvet, ready-looking panel-y things. These were actually pretty simple to make. We were trying to figure out a way to get some cool color into the set, and all I could think of was just I wanted little splashes, little blocks. And Billy and I got to talking about how we could make a little panel out of some type of a cloth. So he and I went down to the old like a fabric store / hobby type little thing, and we picked out this cool crushed velvet thing, and then Billy went ahead and just made a quick frame out of some wood and glued and stapled this just to this frame. So they turned out really cool, and they were actually pretty cheap to make. I don't remember the total cost for the fabric, but I think it was easily less than $100. but it gave us just the right cool splash of color that we needed for this set. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these out of here. All right, this is what I call the VO section of the AudioBuzz set. This is where we had cleverly had a really cool expensive mic sitting there, which is not there right now because it's too expensive and they don't let me have it. But anyway, that's another story. This was really cool because I liked the way I used this little 250 watt Lowell to hit our flag and baffle, our little audio cushion here, and it just made a really cool pool of light behind the microphone and kind of made it stand off like a little silhouette, which I really thought was cool. And also, we had another light up here with a little blue gel on it that was just backlighting the big monitor there that Jeff used at the desk. So anyways, a couple little lights and a couple little flag and baffles. That's pretty much it. Here's a miniature version of the flag and baffle. And these are all pretty light, so I can pick these up and put them pretty much anywhere we want to use them. I think they'd be better with wheels though. Okay, now it's time to talk about the big black wall that was back here. Basically, we did this because we had some of this draping left over from a trade show. So I had Billy hang this up to try to cover up what's behind here. And it's just basically our big garage door to get, I don't know, large automobiles and things like that within inside this warehouse. But I had to cover that up, and black works really well for things like that. So we hung this drape, and then also from a couple of our trade shows that we've done, we have these walls that we build our booth out of. They're just styrofoam covered with just a little black fabric. So I used these because my curtain wasn't long enough to cover the whole door, and just used these panels to kind of finish it off. So let's go ahead and get these out of the way. We'll just get this out of the way a little bit here. There we go. Tie that back a bit. Good. There's not a whole lot to this set. It's coming apart fairly quickly, and it'll go back together just as fast. Okay. This brings us to our last little element in the AudioBuzz set, and that's the workstation area, where Jeff does, well, pretty much all his work, for the show anyways. We had the cool, I guess this is it's a cinema display. I don't remember how large it is, but it's pretty dang big. That worked out really well. I don't know where that came from, to be honest with you. But I saw it over there in our creative side. I said, hey, this would be a perfect monitor for Jeff's set. It would go great with the desk that I'm about ready to get for this thing. So somebody said, yeah, go ahead, grab it, it's yours. So maybe I'll take it home, who knows. Anyways, the desk is just a simple glass desk that I got from like an office mega store type thing that was $119. Took me about an hour to put it together, and it made a great addition to the set. Kind of cool and funky, but not big, and didn't take up a lot of space. So that's what I liked about it. Here for the monitors on his desk are my speakers from home, my little studio file from M Audio, really good monitors. So I'll be taking these home along with that cinema display. No, just kidding. And well, that pretty much does it, other than the cool RLX foam monitor thingies. I don't know the technical name for these, but that's okay. Well, I guess that just about does it for this AudioBuzz set. Let's recap, shall we?
All right, so remember, it's always good to start off with stuff you already have. Make a list and try to fit things into your set that you don't have to go out and buy, like our flag and baffles and that keyboard and those drapes. Keep lighting in mind the whole time you're assembling, and be prepared to change things constantly. Having a Billy around to build you cool things is always a plus too. Your local home mega stores are a great place to find all sorts of props and set pieces. Chatting with Chuck is also stimulating as well. Then, throw all of your stuff together and bingo, a custom AudioBuzz set.
Well, there you have it. Just a few handy-dandy items, little creativity, and an afternoon. You too can have your very own AudioBuzz set. Well, sort of. Thanks a lot for watching AudioBuzz. Good luck. So is it true that on every set that I work on, I keep a little spider around in the background? Ooh, spooky.
Throughout the course of this season on AudioBuzz, we've tried to cover as many practical topics as our time would allow. Now, all this information has brought up some questions from our viewers, and as a result, you let us know this in our comment section on Djtv. So in this episode, we'll take a look at a handful of questions that caught our attention. All right, in no particular order of questions, let's get started. From episode 7, Monitors Matter, Kevin Hoven says, "Great show, but I have one question. I do most of my work with headphones, not speakers. Is this a bad thing? If you're editing your project and only making edit decisions in regards to sound placement, not making any decisions on the mix, EQ, or overall sound of your audio, then headphones are perfectly acceptable. I'd recommend getting a set of closed-back headphones that cover your ears completely. There are a variety of types that partially cover your ear, but after prolonged use, your ears tend to become sore. Also, it's a good idea to keep the volume to a minimum, as to not wear on your eardrums. Some of the editing work that's done on stack tracks is actually done on a laptop through headphones, saving the final EQ and mix for the edit suite with a pair of JBL LSR monitors." Okay, from the same episode, Simon Giddings asks, "The monitors have been dealt with, but what should I be looking for in terms of getting the sound out of the computer? Should I be looking at special audio cards or external devices?" If you're importing all of your audio from your camera and then exporting the finished edit to, let's say, a DVD, you can do this with the audio hardware built right into your computer. One advantage of an upgraded audio card would be better quality and less noise. An external USB or FireWire interface is a must if you're doing any voiceover or recording anything in your studio. Most onboard audio is sadly lacking in quality here, and you'll probably be disappointed with the results. Most of these external interfaces also come with specialized audio software as an added bonus. For example, you can get a DigiDesign Inbox 2 Mini for under $300, and it comes with Pro Tools LE. From the Padded Room, Episode 3, 2 interesting questions were brought up. Bill Chanel writes, "Great segment. I really like the tip about the carpet tag strips. I wish you could have touched just a bit more on where to place the materials." And from Reginaldo Suarez, "Are you talking about covering all the walls in a room from top to bottom? In my case, I use an open space as my studio and sometimes use my on-camera mic to record audio with. Would some foam do the trick? Should all 4 walls have some foam or just the ones near my camera?" It's not necessary to cover all of your walls in foam. The idea is to keep your voice from bouncing off the walls and getting back into your mic. Believe it or not, if you and your camera can squeeze into a closet packed with hanging clothes, you can actually get pretty good results. If you're looking for a more professional solution, you might want to think about something like the Maxwall system from RLX. This is a portable interlocking acoustic wall system that's easy to set up, tear down, and move from place to place. If you're using a mic on a stand, check out their ISO Producer Pack. This will give you a variety of small portable aural expanders to help isolate your microphone and reduce room interaction. And finally, from episode 4 on sweetening your audio, Thomas Krauska asks, "I'd like to see a bit more information on compression. As I looked at your screen, there seems to be a few more controls which you don't explain at all. Also, you don't explain the controls which you do use." Well, Thomas, I like to think of compression as salt. Just a dash helps the flavor, but too much spoils the meal. Most compressors typically have quite a few options. Let's look at some of the most common. A compressor can help you bring your loud and soft parts closer together to increase the intelligibility of your dialogue and increase the punch and power of your sound effects. The threshold control allows you to set the level above which the compressor will actually start altering the input signal. The ratio sets the amount of gain reduction for each decibel of input above this threshold. With a threshold setting of -6 decibels and a ratio setting of 3:1, for every 3 decibels of input over the -6 dB threshold, the compressor will output 1 decibel of signal. Attack sets how fast the compressor responds to the signal once it passes the threshold. Release controls how quickly the compressor stops compressing once the signal falls below that threshold. These 2 controls together can help smooth the effect or make it more responsive to changes. The output control lets you set the level that will feed out of the compressor and back into your mixer channel, allowing you to make up for the overall amount of gain reduction that results from the initial compression. Hard knee and soft knee refer to the way in which the compressor treats the signal around the threshold. A hard knee will apply the full amount of compression to the signal the moment it crosses the threshold, while a soft knee might start at a 1-to-1 ratio and gradually increase to the final ratio, resulting in a more gentle effect. The peak setting detects signal peaks and applies compression to them. Peak is more often used to control signal spikes and transients, and to prevent overloads and distortion, perhaps on a percussion track. Audio compression is extremely important for editors to understand, since pros use it on nearly every project. While you can use a wide variety of pre-configured plugins, real-world audio fixes don't always fall into the neat and tidy presets. Understanding some of the science behind the controls will help, but there's still no substitute for practical experience. I hope you've learned a little more about the world of audio and are able to use this information to make better videos. Thanks for watching AudioBuzz.